welcome to the American Scouser post-match reaction for anybody who's still alive, who isn't on heart medications like I am. John, good to see you. Fantastic result, interesting game, and we said in the pre-match, at least for me, I thought it was going to be a fun game. I didn't expect it to be that fun, but in the end, we got our just rewards, didn't we?
Let me just say, Micah, you mentioned something at the start of the game about never knowing how a Newcastle-Liverpool game is going to end. And this is another one of those, man. Red card for Big Verge. I don't know. There's a lot of debate going on about it. I think at the end of the day it was a red. I was resistant at first. But, man, let me just raise a pint to Darwin Nunez, who we were all writing off at the start, wondering when he was going to start a game. But this is exactly what we need from him, man. The absolute chaos that he brings. 2 shots on target from him, 2 goals, stealing it at the death. What more can you ask for? What a win, man. What a win. I'm absolutely delighted, and I'm sure the people who are going to be coming on to this show are going to be the same, man. Wow.
Well, speaking of which, we're going to bring on Gali here, who's also celebrating.
Cheers, Gali.
Gali, we spoke about the unpredictability of a Newcastle-Liverpool game, but we didn't expect it to be that unpredictable, did we?
No, we had no clue that it would be like that. That's ridiculous. From the way it started to how helter-skelter it was, from the refereeing to the decision-making on both sides. I'm sure we'll get to some of it. Virgil sending off, Klopp and how not actually getting to fisticuffs at that point. I thought it was inevitable they'd be face-to-face, but there was enough jawing between both sides. It had everything a Newcastle-Liverpool match is supposed to have, including the team probably scoring 2 late goals that you didn't expect to win. But, honestly, by the end, they deserved it.
Right.
They did deserve to win. So just craziness. Can't wait for more crazy people to join.
All right. Well, I was telling Micah at the start. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just going to bring Cozzy on here just quickly. So, Cozzy, are you still alive like the rest of us?
Well, that's not what to say. I don't find it speechless. It's such a big win. It's such because the lads can feel a bit unjust with the sending off or whatever, and Trent can feel unjust and stuff. But to win it like that, the pain that those Geordies must be going through. Oh, what a way to win a football match! It's the best way to win a football match.
Anthony Gordon, hands on head, man, injected into my veins at the end there. Oh man, that is just.
They're so severely unlikable, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? They're so unlikable. 10 of the players are all unlikable, including the manager and that assistant manager who I beat the fuck out of if I was standing in front of him. I hate him so much. It's just brilliant, man. Excellent. So happy. Now we can win this league, can't we?
So let me throw it to the floor. It can't be escaped. The red card. Now, for me, first of all, it was a foul. You can't go through players anymore to get the ball. Those days are well gone of the Chopper Harrises and the Tommy Smiths. The question for me was just kind of going back to my days as a coach and a bit of a referee. There's 4 things the referees have to look for when they're going for a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. It's the distance to goal, the distance to the ball, the number of defenders. But the one that was catching me out was the direction of play. And it looked to me like he was moving towards the corner flag when the tackle came through. And that, to me, is where the controversy is, because if he was going to the corner flag, it was no longer an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, was it?
I thought the ball was slightly going that way. I thought the player was making a run forward. I could see where the ref went to the card. Let's be honest. The ref was poor, right? All across the board, kind of lost foothold of the match from the moment it started, especially knowing it's 2 top 6 sides, vying for a big 3 points.
Yep.
And a fired up crowd, match of the week style. So I think he had a nightmare of a match. I do agree with, Bickler said it here. I do agree with Bickler. I think it was a red card, but I also think once it's called red, there's nothing VAR. This isn't one where I'm getting on Stuart Atwell. The guy was right in front of it. He called it a red card for denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, not violent play, not tackle from behind. I think once that's the call, it is the call.
My question is, though, to you guys, he should have sent Trent off. Let's get that out of the way. He should have sent Trent off.
Right.
If he sends Trent off, does he send Virgil off?
No.
No, I don't think so. No.
So yeah, I think he kind of realised in his head that he's made a mistake. I'm going, I should have sent him for that. I think he's realised. And I think he's trying to make up for it for the Virgil one. I genuinely think that's what he's trying to do.
Listen, considering Gally touched on it, considering the magnitude of the game, I don't know. Like I watching it over and over again, it's probably a red. And if it was reversed, I would love it to be a red. But man, I don't know. It's just probably my Verge bias talking because Verge is my guy. But yeah, listen, it was rough. It didn't put us in a good position, but
after the back of that, though, Mark, and I following on from that, the pressure that Gomez just came in under there for that in that moment to come in, thought he was excellent. So was Matip, by the way. But Matip started the game. He got up to speed. That was an intense game of football, super intense, and he got up to speed really well. I thought he was brilliant. So it puts a little marker down for him to get in that confidence back as well going into these games because he might be needed in the next couple of weeks now. So brilliant for him as well.
I think we'll talk about the Liverpool performance a bit more now, but I just want to say, just given the remarks of Mike Dean last week, is it possible that we've just discovered that particular ref today is not a friend of Mike Dean's and he knew he wasn't going to get backed by him?
I mean, I feel like
and that's why he made it up.
He lost control as soon as he booked Trent. he set the tone that game when he booked Trent for throwing the ball back on. That's when he completely lost control, and he knew he should have sent him off, and that was 7 minutes in. And his head was gone completely. He'd had Virgil van Dijk calling him this and that, every name under the sun. Virgil van Dijk basically squared up to the fourth official, and then he just like clops in his face. It's just like he just lost control of the game. And again, it all stems from the first incident with Trent throwing the ball back on. But if he would have just called it as a foul, which it was on Trent, it was a foul on Trent. I don't think the game goes in the way it does. Because I think everyone calms it down a bit, you know what I mean? Newcastle don't play like that. Newcastle don't play with that intensity. Newcastle like to slow the game down. Newcastle like to get hold of the ball and slow as soon as their fans got riled up after the 7th minute when they were like, he should be gone. And they got, it's a bit like the Arsenal game last year with us, when we're 2-0 down and Trent does the square off there. Trent squares up to the, it was a Granit Xhaka, I think, when we were 2-0 down, and then the fans just got up on the backs and went, fuck, you know what I mean? We're not taking that. Newcastle did the same today, and that's why the game went like that.
Gally, let me ask you this. We talked in the Bournemouth game. I always get my Bournemouth and my Brentfords confused. The other sending off game, we played a lot better with 10 than we did with 11. And we talked about, certainly on the Thursday pod there the other night, about the resilience the team shows. And yet again, we've seen another resilient performance. We may have our complaints, and we may worry about the style of play and the recruitment, but there's still a huge amount of spine and backbone to this team, isn't there?
Absolutely. There's a lot of character. And I think Kazi made a comment about, Gomez coming in and just doing such a big job. Paul said earlier that, Matip was an unsung hero, and that was over the whole 90 minutes, not just after Virgil went off. He was playing well. Honestly, when Trent was a little on ice skates and looked like a deer in headlights the first 10 minutes of the match, when he could have easily picked up a couple of yellows, and also had, the nightmare of not getting his foot on top of the ball and sending Gordon through on the first goal. So I mean, for everything they did, and they never gave up. To your point about playing better with 10 men, I think it's easy to jokingly say that. I think what it does is it creates more space on the pitch, and it provided us to play on the counter. I mean, we came into this match wanting to have possession, to win the game with possession. And then quickly we realized we're down to 10 men. We're going to have to play on the counter. And I think at times we saw, and by times I mean the final 15 minutes when we brought the Wild Stallion on the pitch and just let him run at people. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. If that's Mo, and Mo is lightning quick, but if that's Mo on the first goal, Botman doesn't get caught up in his own head and worry about where his feet are to let the ball bounce off his hip and then Darwin get behind him. He had done it all day. So I think what Darwin brought at it, and we'll get more to the second half, but I think the resiliency of our team, from Gomez's performance to Alisson's huge save in the first half. I mean, it's a world-class save on Almiron to keep it at 1-0. If it gets to 2-0 at any point, the game's good night the lights. And instead, I'm running around the basement with my wife sleeping on the couch and the freaking dog actually looking at me like I'm crazy because he's only 14 months old. So he's never actually seen like an amazing Liverpool moment because he only watched me with all of last year, which was even when we took late leads, I didn't actually believe it would hold up. So today he actually saw the craziness and somehow he got through it pretty happily. So for me, this was I think I put it in our Discord. The fans needed this, the manager needed this, the players needed this, Darwin needed this, the supporters in the stadium needed this. I mean, Klopp doing the fist pump to the only stadium that makes the supporters sit in an upper deck because it's not safe. I mean, it's not safe because the people up north just aren't safe enough to hang out with, I guess. They need their own entrances, but, they're in the upper deck and they're loving it. It was a beautiful thing to see. We need to live it up.
Let's bring up the Polish.
Oh, here he is.
Go ahead.
I think there's two things that are important to you, right? I think those array of corners we had in the second half, where we had 4 or 5 corners back to back. I think that gives the players confidence and to be like, you know what, there's a sniff here. There's a sniff at something. And I think the first goal, Gally mentioned it, about Botman getting fit. I just think he got complacent. I think they're so comfortable in the game at 1-0. They look so comfortable that he just, one split second, it's a bit like the Trent thing of just a little bit of error of judgment, you get punished. And that's what happens at the top level, doesn't it? So, again, as Gally just said, mate, it's amazing. Amazing.
I was telling Maka at the start of the game, I don't think... Oh, sorry. Someone say something?
No, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah,
we'll
sorry
get the
about
Polish
that.
sprints in at some point.
Right. Actually, you know what, Matush, I'm sorry. How about you just give your thoughts? I'm sorry to butt in there.
I'm perfectly content just sitting here and enjoying all this and listening to you guys. So you go for it, man. I'm just gonna.
All right. My biggest thing is Newcastle.
We'll give him a chance. We'll give him a chance to consider his thoughts about Matty Cash, and then he can give them to us when he has a chance.
The pride of Poland.
Right. All right. I think Newcastle. I was telling Maka at the start of the game. I don't think Newcastle did anything to warrant getting anything from this game. Listen, their goal, we gifted them that goal. Did they create against us? Sure, but we were down to 10 men, and we coped pretty well. In terms of us stealing the points, everyone says it's a steal, it's a smash and grab. I think it's thoroughly deserved, but that's just me. Anyone can just say something about it, but that's what I think. I don't think they look that good, honestly.
Okay,
go on the Prince.
15 seconds on Matty Cash. Go.
Oh man, who needs Robert Lewandowski when you've got Matty Cash coming down that wing? And
no one's ever said that in the history of human mankind. That sentence. No one's ever said that.
Not in English,
including Matty Cash. Is
not in English, but there might have been a few polls that said something along the way.
But nah, man, brilliant. And again, I just looked at the goal back there, and the first goal, especially the pass from Trent to go inside to Jota is an unreal pass. Like that's a pressure pass. Their midfield at the time flying, you know what I mean? But it's just, and Kwanzaa, by the way, can we talk about Kwanzaa for a second? How good was he? You know what I mean? For the young kid coming in there, with Callum Wilson fresh off the bench, who doesn't stop running, excellent as well, brilliant.
Don't talk too much about Kwanzaa though, because then we won't have any activity in the window.
in case anyone's watching, yeah.
Let me throw this out there for anybody. We can start with Gali possibly, but it's the thing that I've said many times on the Thursday podcast is that when Darwin Núñez has time to think of a shot, he generally fluffs it, and when he doesn't have time to think, he pulls off some of the best shots of his career. Those were two ideal set up for somebody who shouldn't think about the shots. Goals, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it was just pure reaction, and it was his class. I mean, I think we've always said as much as we get frustrated with him getting lost in the press, clearly not fitting into the style of play at times, even playing his own game. The one thing we've never really questioned is like the fact that he can finish, that he has every attribute in his locker to actually be a true number 9. Kazi said at the beginning or during the pre-match, like, I got a feeling he might just be shit. And it's not that he still might be, even after today's performance. But what we do know we have a guy that comes on a pitch, gives you energy, gives you pace. And in a moment like today, he gives you the type of chaos, and it's probably thrown around too often, but it's perfect for him. He gives you the type of chaos that allows you to disrupt a match. And it felt like they got settled in their way today. And then it felt like he came in, he didn't think about it. And both of those finishes are great finishes. The first one is on a postage stamp where it needs to be off the post and in. The second one's even better because he has less of an angle and he has to actually elevate the ball to beat Pope, and he still curls it into the side netting. The second one goes in as cleanly as it does because he made the first one. And he was already thinking about that he had won the game as soon as he got behind. And like, I know the announcers were having fun with the evolution of Darwin, but genuinely, there are moments in players' careers that like make or break moments.
Yeah.
2 goals in the last 10 minutes, down 10 men to get 7 out of 9. And being that guy when you're basically been already called a bust by many, this could be the launching of the guy who goes on to having a big impact on us competing for the league. I said it, competing for the league.
Let's bring in Sir Z or Zed if you're European. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
What is your cardiac condition right now?
I was jumping up and down in our room, and wife's like, "What the hell's going on?" I've shaken up the room a bit upstairs. I literally went from being depressed to just like I don't even know. And of all the people to do is Nunes.
Yeah, it's the greatest sport in the world.
It is. It's just being a Liverpool fan.
It is.
Within 5 minutes, you go from suicidal to like a moment where it's just the most jubilation of like life. Amazing.
Yep.
Let me throw this one out to the floor. We talked about the midfield. They didn't do too badly before the red card. I thought Endo looked like he was a nice and tidy player. He was playing within himself, which is what Ali, I think, was talking about before the game. But when you lose a midfield player to make up the 10 men, like, to keep the structure of the back four, it really is impressive how well the remaining central midfielders cope with those conditions, isn't it?
Oh, so you were asking me?
I was asking everybody. That's the floor. I know we're not technically on a floor, but for anybody who wants to answer.
All right. Everyone was looking for the person with the name on the screen that said floor and couldn't pick up on it. So I'll do this to make it this much easier. Everyone, somebody answer that question because it was a good one. But I'm going to bow out and just listen to the rest and maybe comment in the chat to give some more space for other people. Everybody, as always, get in on these pre-match, post-match. We really appreciate all the interaction. Great win. Up the Reds. Have fun, boys. We'll be back next week.
See you later, mate.
See you later, Gally.
Yeah, I think we coped really well.
How did the midfield cope? How do you think they did?
Yeah, I think we coped really well. In terms of Endo looking good, he did look good. Sometimes he did look a bit out of position. Pressing up and getting lost in the press and all that. But, considering it's his first competitive match, starting, it wasn't a good situation where we were down to 10 men and all that. I think he did pretty well, 7 out of 10 performance. Now, obviously, we're going to have tougher tests. This is a good one that he's passed and he was subbed off. I think Elliott coming in did a pretty good job as well in terms of holding the line. But for me, it's mostly that defense, Matip and Gomez sort of hanging in there, giving us this chance. So, yeah, props to the midfield as well, though.
I think for me, it's more the in terms of the midfield. I felt sorry for Endo. He's played 2 games for Liverpool and he went down to 10 men twice. I feel sorry for him. And listen, he wasn't great. That's fair enough. He wasn't great, but he's also playing against 2 monsters and Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, who just don't literally big men. I see John's point there, but when John said there, he won't play, you play more difficult opposition. I don't think you will. Down to 10 men going away to St. James's Park against them 2 monsters, mate. I think that's the hardest game you can probably play in the league. You know what I mean? Apart, you look at City, for example, with Rodri and stuff and Bernardo Silva. If you fancy getting a Bernardo Silva and winning your battle against him kind of thing. But winning a battle against those 2 down to 10 men, thought he struggled a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but again, that'll do him the world of good now. He needs minutes. He needs time with the players. He needs everything that he can. And again, all our players are sitting in that dressing room now thinking, fucking come on, we'll go for this. We can go for this. I truly believe that, and it gives Endo that world of confidence as well.
You have to remember, like, it took Fabinho, 4 or 5 games to get a regular start. Endo's just been thrown in. Like you said, it's 10 Trent's still making his mistakes. It's hard for him. Like I said, Fabinho took 4 or 5 games to get in, and he became a legend. So I think he's done well in the 1.5 matches that he's played, or maybe one home match if you add everything together. He's done okay.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna drop off. I'll continue listening to you, boys. I'm gonna drop off. Have a good one. We're gonna win this league, boys.
You too.
See you later.
Yes, we are. So let me throw out to the remaining 3 this one. Let's talk about Trent a little bit. It wasn't a good game from before the sending off, and his lack of concentration on that ball that came in that created the goal. That created the. It was the goal, wasn't it? It was the bad first touch across his body. That let Gordon in. Let me remember that from all the drama. But it's a thing we've talked about before. Or he sometimes switches off when he shouldn't be switching off. Is this an ongoing problem? Do we have to just tolerate it, or should we be looking to maybe move him into central midfield and find a new right back?
I think that it took a silly yellow, which kind of like set the tone for the game for him, because he could have got another yellow card to stop the ball even going to Isaac in the first place, maybe take a yellow for that. So he was already like tethering on the brink of getting sent off. So he already set the tone in that sense. But yeah, still making the same mistakes. And I love Klopp, but I think Klopp is really is just killing Trent. He needs to be in midfield. He can't play right back. He's proven it time and time again. Gomez can't play. Gomez and Matip shouldn't even be in that team. They're not a title winning. They're not title winning defenders. Not anymore. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
Bring Temujin in. See. Let's bring Temujin in to see if he's still breathing healthily.
Yes,
after that.
barely. Barely it is.
It was an exciting one, but it's typical Liverpool this season so far, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're making things a lot more. We're challenging ourselves early in the season with these things, it feels like. But I don't know. It's huge, man. I never saw it coming. You kind of got glimpses of it after like around the 60th minute, and it was more of a, do we snag one? But I'll be honest, like I did not see us holding them to a goal. And this could be on Newcastle, but I think we're being too harsh on the center backs that came in, like Gomez, and I thought Matip played well. I mean, they ultimately did hold. You can blame Newcastle for the way they attacked as well, but they ultimately did hold Newcastle to a goal. I think that's huge.
How do you think Nunez did? We talk a lot about him, but he came on and at least he obviously won us the game. But he did seem to play tactically a little bit better than we usually would.
I mean, this suits him more than, for example, I mean, now I'm sure all the talk is going to be like, who should he be starting? I'm sure Anand already has the banner made in the background for him to start and everything. But I think this suits him more, where we're going to counter and he's going to have that space to run to. This suits him. When we play against a team where we have the ball more, I don't think that's a game for Nunez. I think this was an ideal scenario for Nunez. And hey, credit to him. He made the most of it. I think his finishing is never in question in terms of like he knows where to put the ball. But both of those are great finishes that most, I think, forwards would miss and not capitalize on. So the dude is a scorer. I mean, everybody's going to miss goals. I mean, Haaland misses goals, so it's a matter of like getting into those situations. But I thought the game suited him, and he made the most out of it, which is golden. I mean, that's why I think still though he is the one off the bench to go against a team that was falling asleep.
Well, that was Timochin's point, but I got to bounce, guys. So it was great listening to everyone. I'll see you guys soon.
Take care, bud.
Let's bring on Anand.
Oh, here
Hello,
we
Anand.
go. I'll see you guys in 15
Nunes,
minutes.
eh? Nunes.
Where is Sir Z?
Hey, I love Nunez. I always say he's a great player. He's our best natural goal scorer after Fowler.
Oh man, that's man. You sound like a new guy.
I like giving him crap.
Listen, what a performance from Nunez, right? And I'll give him all that. But the overall, there's one lesson today, and it's don't count Liverpool out regardless of the situation. McAllister gets a red card last week. The team suddenly decides to start playing beautiful football, right? Big Verge gets his red card today. We looked like we were a step behind. In that last 10 minutes, everything changes. Yes, Nunes was a big part of it, but also the way the formation, the way the team started to play was more hungry. They said, you know what? We're down. We're losing. Screw it. What's the worst that can happen? Lose 2-0, 3-0? Let's go. This is the attitude that I've always wanted Jurgen to go with and stop being so conservative at so many situations. And that's what we saw today. And bonus on top, Nunes has now more goals than Salah this year. So, I mean, that's already half of my prediction happening. And, it's going to keep going. And I think he starts next game. I'm sorry. I'm too excited. I was in a staff meeting and, with all the changes in my company, we were working on a Sunday and we were in a staff meeting. And I started getting notifications that something is happening with Nunes because I get specific Nunes notifications. And I said, excuse me, guys, I'll be right back. And, man, here we are.
They're texts from
smiling.
Nunez's agent, I think, is what it is.
That possibly.
So-
I only get Thiago's agent, to be fair. But, yeah, what a game, man. That red card was absolutely not a red card. I just want to put that out there. I saw so many replays. I've read the rules, and the rule, I'm sure you guys saw the tweet now all over the place that the rule now is it's only a red card if it's in the penalty box.
Yeah.
That was not in the penalty box, so that will very likely be overturned. But the way Big Verge attacked the referee with the language and all that might be what gets him that suspension. And that kind of worries me because that could be more than a 3-match suspension. We saw Mitrovic touch a referee last season. He got a 10-match suspension. Big Verge was calling him a clown, a joke, a B-word. I mean, there's so many things he said. And then when he walked off the pitch, he was threatening the fourth official. And it was just getting worse. So that worries me. So we need a new center back for potentially what could happen this season. That's
We
really
need
where I
3
am.
center backs. Get rid of Gomez and Matic.
Let me just put just a nice little statistic here from the BBC website. Darwin Núñez is the second Liverpool player to come off the bench and to score both the equaliser and the winning goal in a Premier League match since Mark Walters in 1992 against Blackburn Rovers. He's in top company. Núñez is in high-level company now.
Mark Walters' middle
He's
name
right
is
up
Everton.
there with one move Walters.
Mark Everton Walters.
But
That tells you exactly
I think that's a good point from Anand is that we could be worrying about losing Virgil for a lot longer than we would have if he'd have just stayed quiet, as angry as he may have been after the red card. Kwanzaa did a good job. Obviously, we can't rely on Kwanzaa, but can we also not rely on Kanate to stay fit?
I think he's injury prone. History shows his injury. He was injury prone at Leipzig as well. He's as good as he is. You can't rely on him for the whole season. You have to have a good, solid backup for him.
Yeah, we probably need 2 solid backups, and I doubt we'll go in the market now and get 2. But if we sign at least 1 from now till the end of this market, and then maybe in January potentially look at someone else, or even next season. But now we need at least 1 center back, and this has been our conversation all summer. We need a holding midfielder that's going to be there to do the job and not be a fill-in emergency holding midfielder. Endo did as much as he can, but I think as the season progresses, he may not be the guy. He could be a substitute. He could be the guy to come in and fill in. But God, if this is how we go all season, we're going to be in deep trouble.
I thought Mateusz was going to say something there. Mateusz, the Polish prince.
No, yeah,
I
think
it wasn't Matty Cash now, was it?
I could throw his name around, but I think we're past the cash debate at this, or the cash talk at this point. I think going back to that red a bit, that screenshot that Anand is talking about, it's not for that specific moment. That's only in the box. So like it's not double jeopardy is what it protects you from. So it is a red based on the wordage and the definition of what it is a red, unfortunately. I think, if it was reversed, and Timothy and I always say this, if it was the other way around, we would have wanted a red all day. If that was Mo being taken out, if that was Cody being taken out. So I think ultimately, because of the verbiage and what happened, you have to.
Whoa.
Oh, on that note,
Somebody didn't agree with him.
With that, I'm out of here. Now, honestly, to continue on, because I know what he was going to say. No,
That was Matty Cash because we stopped talking about him.
But I think the problem is, I think it's a red too, because if you yank him, if it is by rule, it's a red. My problem always goes back to the consistency of how they call the rules. Matur says he got kicked up. But I think, the same thing with Trent. I thought that's a bullshit yellow, and I understand that's the rule. They're emphasizing it. He's on his ass. Ball comes to him. He flips it away. It's not like somebody was about to take it and he kicked it away. And then throughout the game, I saw Tonali do it twice. Jolinton, who probably had 35 fouls the entire game and somehow did not get carded, did it a couple of times, and they did not get a yellow. And if the dude had any balls, really, Sir Z is saying, I think Trent should have gotten a red. Because if Trent doesn't have a yellow already, that is a yellow. If he does that with no yellows prior, he's a yellow. I think even the refs realize that some of these yellows are bullshit, but because it's the emphasis, because otherwise I feel like that would have been a second yellow. He should have been gone. Really, I'm sure there'll be a lot of Newcastle fans right now saying that. But then again, my defense would be if he got a red there, he wouldn't be able to fuck up for their goal. So I guess that kind of evens up.
Yeah, and it's funny because in the last minute of added time, Trent took too long to throw in the throw in that he had. Last week he got a yellow for that. This week he didn't. I mean, it was it's the same thing. The inconsistency in refereeing we're going to see this season is going to be beautiful because it's only been 2 weeks, and goodness me, Howard Webb is already doing the job, man. That's all I can say.
Let's talk about the performance of Robertson. We talked about before. I thought he stepped up to the challenge after the card more so than before the card. But I saw near the end of the game almost like a Milner-like leadership quality. He was trying to get players to do things to slow the game down as we were coming up into the end of the game and into injury time. We talked before the game about, he's hitting 30 years old. He's not a sprightly young chicken anymore. Is it time to start phasing Robertson out and thinking about his replacement and using him as the new James Milner?
I don't think this new formation suits him. He's definitely not the same rower that we had, and obviously had a lot of protection with from Mane when we were doing well. Diaz doesn't offer that. Nunes definitely didn't offer that. So I think Roberts had to curtail his game to his detriment. He's definitely got a leadership role, but he's definitely not the same player that we that Mourinho loved. Running up and down, and I don't think he's confident with the attackers to cover his position when he does go up front, and that's to his detriment.
Is it a case possibly that this new formation is more suited for Tsimikas than Robertson?
I don't know. Tsimikas is a bit of a clown.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. Tsimikas will be a defensive liability, and I like Tsimikas for it, but he will be more of a defensive liability than Robo, who's, I would say, in a way or another, also sort of a defensive liability recently, because Robo is just now turning into a one direction, just go all the way up and just come all the way back down, right? There was a funny little tweet with the heat map of Robo, and it was just a red line dashing forward. But yeah, Tsimikas is also a defensive liability. He can give you the last 10 minutes. He can give you, heart and all that, but you don't want him being the guy that's being phased in for Robo.
No,
it's either we keep Robo the way he is now until his legs completely give out, or we go out and we start shopping for a left back, a modern day left back. because the way Robo plays isn't the very modern football, right? It's the classic all left back, go all the way up front, cross the ball, come back. And we love that. It worked, but it worked because of the system. Bobby Firmino, Mane, even Salah at some point was covering him, right? He had that coverage. And like Sir Z said, Diaz does enough of it, but it's just not enough. Nunez will not track all the way back like the way Mane used to. And they will definitely not give you the same pressure that they were getting from Mane and goodness me, and Bobby Firmino. So we either stick to this formation and start shopping, or we got to switch the way we're playing, because goodness, Robo's getting old and you can see it. But the leadership skills are there, and, we respect that.
I honestly think you guys are talking about the people in front of him. I really think partially it's the guy next to him and his decline. I don't think Robertson was ever so much better defensively, but I think you had a Van Dijk who was able to cover that. And now Van Dijk is not the same Van Dijk he was, so he can't cover it as much. So some of those things are exposed. And I really think I don't know what we're getting out of this inverted fullback at the moment. Puts Trent back where he should be so that Robertson can be the left back he was. And then, because Endo looked so lost today, and I think that's partially because he's not used to playing with this inverted fullback occasionally popping up next to him. He was almost like, oh shit, what are you doing over here? Now let me slide left a little bit then, because you're there. I feel like put Trent where he should be, play him as a right back, have him focus on his defense, put Robertson on his left, and that way Robertson can take advantage of that. By putting, I think, Trent in the middle, you're enabling everybody to kind of slightly shift that way, which blocks Robertson's way. I mean, the passing, we're not getting as much out of it right now. I know when he first went there, they were like, oh, look at these passes that Trent is distributing. And I feel like Trent is forcing these passes now, because I'm not defending. This is the only thing I'm doing. Let me get a pass over here to prove my value kind of deal. And those forced passes are not going through. And there were like a lot of them like lobbed random passes. Put Trent back at right back. Put Robertson back at left back. We have a midfield now that does not need Trent to come up and be creative. You have McAllister, you have Szoboszlai, and I think Endo is a good distributor of the ball. I know he looked lost today. He must think we always play with 10 or something. But, I mean, I think that's the real problem. We're kind of like getting less out of Robertson. We're getting less out of Trent. Just go back to default settings, reboot the computer, and let's play that way.
Worst case scenario, you can put Nunez at left back and he'll do the job too. He'll score.
I mean, he'll probably score from there. I mean,
he'll get a red card before anybody.
Only if he has no time to think about it.
Yeah, so I think we should maybe starting next week, guys. This could be your opinion because you mainly do the pregame show. If you guys, we should do a red card roulette of who you think will get a red card today. Whoever gets it right gets to host the next show.
Yeah,
we should. Like that.
We should have done the under over for red cards rather than the under over for Gordon dives.
Oh, those odds are going to start changing as of next week because we're getting red cards next week too. If I had to put money on it next week, I say the red card goes to Endo and bookmark it.
Yeah.
So slightly on that, let me ask this question. Jota came on, and I thought he did a little bit better creatively than Gakpo was doing when Gakpo was on. I think he was the linchpin almost of our counterattacks. It's good to see Jota kind of getting back up to speed, isn't it?
Yeah. He did a lot better than Gakpo. I don't think Gakpo did. I don't think he offered good touch or where you set anything up. Salah, I think, he had 2 shots on goal, maybe. We're not getting the best out of Salah with Gakpo right now or Jota up there.
I think the thing is, Jota, those were like really good substitutions in that sense because they both benefit from space a lot more than, for example, Gakpo does. Gakpo is a good player to have when we're going to be in tight spaces. He's going to have to control, flick a pass and stuff like that, operate in tight spaces. But in wide open spaces, I don't think he's as good. Whereas Jota can make those runs. I mean, he set up Mo for that, could possibly have been a goal. I think Mo probably took one too many touches on that one instead of cracking to the opposite corner. And I think, it works a lot better. Same thing with Nunez. They operate better with space. And that was probably Newcastle's big. I mean, this is probably really, really devastating, I would think, to Newcastle's season. While it is like a huge boost, I think, to our season. But before I hop off, I wanted to say, I know everybody will go after, obviously Nunez as the man of the match and stuff like that because of the impact. But you go back in this game, because I was watching the highlights afterwards, and Alisson once again keeps this team in the game. And not to mention this way, Anand doesn't get man of the match from his guy. But Ali has to get credit for keeping us in the game with 2 huge saves. And throughout, I thought he was excellent today. We were a man down, but we were still able to kind of control the ball in the back and not give in to their pressing. And I think that's Ali with the ball in his feet is a huge reason for that. But it's going to be a great Sunday now that this is out of the way. So whatever errands I have to run won't feel as torturous. You boys have like a great day. I'll see the gang tomorrow morning on the
Also, I've got to go, but before I leave, I've got to say Nunez is a GOAT. And I want to say,
that's not what you're supposed to say.
and he told me to say Nunez is a GOAT.
He was the GOAT. Well, okay, he misread my message.
I think just to end it off now on this fantastic Sunday that we can now all enjoy. Before we go, number one, make sure everybody likes and subscribes, follows the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, the Instagram, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Get involved in the Discord discussions. We have the Monday pod tomorrow. We have the EPL pod, the Thursday pod, and the morning coffees as well during the week. There's plenty of content out there for people to watch, so make sure you're smashing those like buttons and subscribing and listening to those bells. But we will give Anand the last word today, I think. Take it away, Anand.
The last 3 words, maybe 4. Nunez
last
is
3 words.
The GOAT. Here we go. That's all I can say. Thank you, Darwin Nunez, for giving us a beautiful Sunday, making us come here, smiles on our faces, and me looking at Serzi's face and saying, what were you saying?
Nunez is the GOAT.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Okay,
Man. It was a great...
I think that's all that really needs to be said. Gentlemen, have a great Sunday. We'll see everybody else tomorrow, and enjoy the rest of your day.